Hi there, folks. My name is Chris. I'm a Senior Technical SEO here at Lumar, and welcome to our webinar today. SEO for FinTech and the financial services industry, unique challenges and solutions. Joining me today is Ben Beckwith, Director of SEO at GoHenry, and I'm really excited about this. I used to work in sort of FinTech adjacent space a few years ago. And so as such, I've got, or used to have, I guess, some skin in the game. And obviously a lot of the clients that we work with nowadays are in FinTech and YMYL space. So I'm really excited. So I guess, Ben, if you'd like to introduce yourself, we'll get started.
So yes, I'm the Director of SEO at GoHenry. I've been at GoHenry for about 9 months now, looking after the UK and US markets and growing the organic footprint in both those markets for GoHenry. As well as that, I've been in SEO for about 8 or 9 years, where prior to GoHenry, I was at an agency called Symmetrical, worked with lots of different brands and worked with a lot of different industries, from FinTech, financial services, to e-commerce, the property space, and works with lots of different brands within FinTech and financial services. So on today's webinar, we're going to touch upon the unique considerations within financial services and FinTech SEO, why businesses are investing in SEO in 2023, common pitfalls that I've come across over the years with different websites, recommended approaches to take, channel and operational alignment, reporting and forecasting, and we'll have some Q&A at the end. So typically, SEO in the financial services industry requires largely a content-centric approach, where there's a focus on going after long-tail search queries. It's an industry that needs to abide by strict quality guidelines. This is because it sits within YMYL, or Your Money, Your Life, which is an acronym from the Google Quality Rating Guidelines, where financial services and FinTech websites provide information, services or products that can influence the decision relating to someone's money, well-being, or life. It ultimately means that it creates an added level of scrutiny before pages are ranked, as low quality pages can have a negative impact on the person's financial stability or happiness. But alongside YMYL is EAT, with the newly added E that happened back in December last year. This is the level of experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness the creator of the main content itself, and the website has. Trust being the most critical component. It comes from the Google Search Quality Rating Guidelines, which are used by human raters to assess the quality of search results. It's not a direct ranking factor. That's something to take into consideration, but it's used as a rating tool and a lead indicator of quality content. There are also additional considerations to pay attention to. We typically need to implement content strategies at URL level due to the content-centric nature of our industry. A lot of the sites in this space are small, so we don't have the luxury of optimizing templates where the change might affect 10,000 plus pages, which you would typically see in the e-commerce industry. We work in a heavily regulated industry where governmental regulations can change depending on location. Certain terms may be a no-go. Disclaimers might need to be added to the bottom of your content, as well as content needing to be reviewed by the legal and compliance teams. Trust is essential within this vertical, as this is further highlighted in the Quality Rating Guidelines, where it's now seen as being the most critical component of EAT. It's important to read your organic competitors, as you most likely will be competing with direct, but also indirect competitors. For example, at GoHenry, we compete with the likes of different kids' debit card providers, but also Investopedia, Bankrate, and Finder. We need to target long-tail search queries, which may show up, which will show up zero volume in third-party tools, but in reality do have search volume. For example, Inflation for Kids has around 100 searches a month, but tool says 0. There's new sites regularly coming into the SERP landscape, causing additional layer of competition, and content that we're creating is on complex topics, but needs to be broken down simply by industry experts. 10 official Google updates in 2022 occurred, with 4 of them focused just on content. This just shows how important high-quality content is and how Google is tweaking its algorithms to try and ensure quality content ranks at the top of the SERPs. SEO should be playing a key part in your channel mix for 2023. But why? Why are companies investing in SEO? Well, paid acquisition can be very costly, where CPCs can be in excess of £50 plus per click, and competition only increases the CPCs. SEO can provide a more cost-effective option in the future once all the foundations have been laid out. SEO research usually uncovers new keywords the paid media team can bid on, and newly optimized pages for SEO can also be used for paid media and other marketing channels. SEO campaigns typically uncover new keywords a website can rank for, along with improving the rankings of existing keywords, resulting in an increase in visibility. Also, many established brands are visible for branded terms, but not when people search for non-branded keywords. So targeting non-branded keywords can help reach new audiences who may be looking for products or services that brand offers. There are numerous SEO pitfalls, though, that websites are falling into. So only producing brand-led content or thought leadership articles. So this results in minimal to no traffic, as brand-led and leadership content usually is not optimized for what users are searching for organically. Producing content on topics that sites are not an expert in. Content strategy starting too narrow, resulting in minimal traffic. This is for sites mainly starting out their content strategy, where they're only focusing on one or two topics initially, but the search volumes are very low, resulting in minimal traffic, and it makes it hard to prove the value of SEO of being a successful channel. An over-reliance on a small number of pages. So I've seen this happen quite a lot, where a site might generate 95% of their traffic from 10 URLs on their site, but if the rankings start to drop due to an update, their traffic may be completely wiped out due to the over-reliance. Not owning informational questions around their brand. So brand ranking for the brand head terms, but not being visible for questions or consideration-based keywords around their brand. A good example here is if you typed in "how does Revolut work," you don't have Revolut dominating the first page of the SERPs. It's a lot of different websites. Where if you typed in "how does Monzo work," you've got Monzo dominating their SERPs with their own pages. You also have producing multiple articles on the same topic, causing cannibalization, as well as producing content that does not meet the SERP intent. So what you might have here is this is where a site creates a product page to rank, but to meet the SERP intent, a long form guide is actually required. Producing content that does not meet the SERP intent, not having an optimal technical setup in place, producing content for vanity metrics, as well as product pages optimized for product names, and not building out feature-related pages and solution-based pages. So when building our strategy, I like to break it down into 3 key stages. On page. So when creating high-quality content that will perform well within this vertical, we need to start with market research, because thorough market research provides the backbone to your success. So before you start, it's important to identify who your audience is and work back from there. So if you're targeting, let's say, a small business, you want to focus on the keyword research. You want to focus your keyword research on search queries relevant to that small business owner, not exploring keywords that enterprise-level companies would be searching for. I guess let's look at another example as well. So if you're targeting parents of young children, you'll want to focus on the keywords that a potential parent would be searching for, instead of producing content that is targeting that young child or teen. So when we are doing the market research, what you want to be focusing on is keyword themes that relate to your core product offering or features that address the customer problem. Prioritizing topics which your company is an expert within, identifying keywords that users are actively researching, ensuring top of the funnel as well as bottom of the funnel keywords are catered for, trial zero search volume keywords, identify common terminology being used in reviews around your products and services. This can be a gold mine, where if you troll through your Trustpilot reviews or other review platforms, you'll start to see how your customers are talking about your products, and you can identify seed keywords from those reviews and start to do market research and keyword research off the back of that. Speak with your target audience to understand what content they want to digest. So not all brands have the luxury of, let's say, a huge community. But if you've got a decent community, I guess, of existing customers, you can start to tap into them and find out what are their pain points, what made them come to the brand or to your product, but also finding out what type of content do they want to be digesting. And that can help, figure out additional ideas to target in the future. Identify ideas through platforms such as Reddit and other forums too. That can help to identify what trending topics are happening in the industry, or where your audience is. What are your audience talking about at the moment that potentially third-party tools with keyword volume might not have any of those keywords in their database or search volume. So it's just another area to explore, to identify additional terms to go after and figure out your keyword strategy. After identifying keywords, review your SERP competitors before finalizing your research. This will help show how competitive the SERP is, who is ranking, direct or non-direct competitors, and how authoritative are those sites. So here's two examples of a SERP, different credit cards and financial literacy for kids. So if I was a new brand just starting out as a let's say a fintech brand, I'd want to be looking at, well, how competitive is that SERP? How authoritative are these domains on page one, especially in the top 3 or 4 results? If the domain's ranking have got a high domain authority and they're highly trusted already and they're a powerhouse in the industry, you may want to deprioritize that keyword and go after another long tail keyword initially so you can show the benefits of SEO. Let's just say you are a mature brand and you've got the domain authority and you've got the trust online. This just helps to identify who you're going to be up against to rank for financial literacy for kids or different credit cards. Also, to rank well and satisfy what the user is looking for, you need to ensure the correct type of content or page is being produced. Otherwise, it will struggle to perform. So you want to figure out, is it a long form guide content that needs to be produced? Is it short form content? Is it a hub page that you need to build to actually rank in the top 2 or 3 positions? Is it data driven, where you need to be putting in primary data or third-party data statistics within your content to back up your claims? Is it a product page that needs to rank? Or is it a comparison type content, for example, X brand versus X brand? So this just shows you some examples of different types of templates that might be ranking for different keyword variants. So on the left-hand side, you've got a hub page for first-time home buyers, and it's linking out to all the information that first-time home buyer would want. You've got in the middle an article about how to get a mortgage for a first-time home. And on the right-hand side, it's more looking for comparisons of mortgage comparisons. So so what users are wanting is a template where it's comparing different mortgage providers. So once we've figured out the keywords to go after and the type of template required, we then move on to the content curation. So we need to focus on page quality by producing credible, authoritative, and trusted content. So what is content quality? What's it made up of? Well, it's made up of originality, talent or skill, and accuracy and effort. So originality being the page content is unique and has the insights not found elsewhere. Talent or skill, meaning a lot of skill or talent has gone into providing a satisfying, helpful experience for people visiting that page. Accuracy, being content is factually accurate and the extent that has gone into making sure it is accurate. And effort, meaning the extent to which a human actively worked to create satisfying content. Your website's reputation and content creator's reputation also contribute to the overall page quality as well. This is super important within the financial services industry based on the topics that we usually cover. Your website should have a reputation online for talking about the topic being covered, and if not, start to build that reputation if the topic is relevant to your business. Your content creators should have a visible reputation online for having a knowledge on that topic that they're writing about, but also, if that's not the case, there are other ways to enhance the page quality, which we'll touch upon shortly. So let's start with the content creator and the website itself. So firstly, is the author an expert on the topic and has a good reputation online? If not, is your brand well known for giving advice on that topic in question? So let's look at a couple of examples. So on the left-hand side, we've got a website ranking with an article ranking for how can teenagers build credit. And on the right-hand side, you've got Barclays ranking with an article which is how to get a mortgage. So let's look at the left-hand side first. So we've got Latoya. Visually, we can see she's a credible author. She's written over 650 articles on credit and debit and credit cards. Has also written for trusted sites online. We can also see Latoya has been quoted as an expert by authoritative publications. And all of this indicates that the content creator can be trusted due to all these signals that are being displayed on the page. For Barclays, they don't have an author on the page or on the article, but instead the brand itself is being seen as the primary content creator. In the Google Quality Rater guidelines, they differentiate between an expert being the content creator, but also the primary content creator also can be the brand itself. This doesn't go against Barclays in this situation, as the brand and the domain is highly authoritative in this space and has built up the reputation online to be an expert on mortgages, where the brand is mentioned regularly within publications and the mortgage market. Is your brand or author alone enough, or does your article need to include industry experts? This links back to expertise and authority on the specific author or the site, where there may be a requirement to speak with additional experts and include them within your content to help reinforce trust. This can be useful when your content creator doesn't have the online reputation to be seen as the expert, or your brand alone is not authoritative enough to be seen as an expert on the topic. Even if your content creator and website does have the online reputation, getting additional expert opinions can help reinforce page quality and improve the page experience for the user. So what I typically like to do here is do an expert audit. So when I'm going after a keyword, I'll typically look at the top 3 results and have a look and see who's ranking. Are they a powerhouse in the industry? Their domain authority, has it got a high domain authority as well? Who's written their content? Is it experts who have written their content? And if I'm seeing that an expert's written their content and the domain is a powerhouse and has a strong domain authority, but also they've included additional experts to back up their claims, that might help reinforce to me that I probably need to include some experts within my content as well to back up my claims, because my brand might be authoritative and I could have an expert who's writing it, but we've got other websites with potentially at the same level playing field, and they're also including additional experts to back up their claims. So how many experts are they using? So even if so you might see one website's using 5 additional experts in their content, another one might have 2. That doesn't mean we need to include 5. It gives you a good idea of the breadth of experts they've been utilizing to get different viewpoints. What type of experts required? Do you need quotes from different professions? So do you need a child psychologist's point of view on a certain topic? Do you need a financial planner's point of view or a personal finance expert? So you can gauge that from understanding when you're looking at your competitors' content, what type of experts have they been utilizing and where have they been utilizing them? And do the experts need to be market specific? So if you're going to be producing content for multiple markets, let's just say the UK and US, can you use the same expert for both markets? Or do you need to figure out and identify an expert who's specific just for the UK and an expert who's specific for the US? So on this slide, you can see I've got a few different examples. A lot of them are around more like money milestones or the value of money or needs versus wants. So these are like financial education topics within the kids and teen space. So if I'm looking at money milestones, I can see one website has also been including a national personal finance expert and author who's backing up claims of what they've been including within their article. For value of money, we've got a website where they've reached out to a charity campaign around learning to get their point of view of kind of how kids can learn the value of money. You've got Barclays in the top right hand corner with money milestones, where they've also got a lead child psychologist point of view on kind of more the psychological side of things around how kids can learn about money at different ages. And they also have the parents' perspective, which can provide a different viewpoint and more of an experience viewpoint that can be incorporated within their content. So you also want to make sure, is your content factual and up to date? Oh, something's happened to it. So you want to make sure claims are backed up with proof from credible sites and studies. This can help signal that your claims are consistent with well-established experts in the space. Showing that content has been reviewed by an expert reinforces accuracy. Showing that this has been fact-checked also reinforces that the content is factually accurate. And doing all of this shows that the amount of effort that went into the content, as visually it can show a lot of work went into building the content as well. And you can see the examples here. We've got different, the sites are citing different third-party sources. It's being fact-checked, it's been reviewed. So it's just reinforcing that trust, and it's highlighting that everything's up to date and has been factually checked. Also, you also want to incorporate primary data and case studies in your content, provide originality and back up your claims. So if Google putting a focus on original content in the updated quality rated guidelines, incorporating primary data and real user case studies helps provide that originality. So here's a couple of examples as well. So on the left-hand side, we've got GoHenry, where we're doing an article around the average pocket money, for example. But we're using our own primary data that we've done reports and studies on, of getting data from our app and speaking to our customers to get the average pocket money by age. This is original data that other websites won't be including on their articles. With Barclays, we can see this is their money milestones article, where they've got quotes, like I mentioned before, from other experts, but they're also incorporating primary data from a study to find out what do kids know at different ages around banking and bank accounts and credit cards. You want to tie all your content together with content clusters. So this can help search engines to understand the content structure of your website. They also allow you to build authority around a specific topic as well. And there's also additional trust signals you can do. So does your website include industry awards, an About Us page, company information, and customer reviews? So these are just examples of additional trust signals you can send to users. These are typically needed on more product pages and category pages over article pages, where you're showing the reputation of your brands and that you can be trusted. So then we move on to technical. It's common within this space for people to say technical is less needle moving and it doesn't have as much of an impact, but please don't fall into this trap. It's still really, really important. Ensure your CMS is optimal and it provides the foundations to your strategy. So you want to make sure it's easy to upload and update content. So you might be a website where you might be a mortgage provider and rates change on a regular basis. If you need to change those rates, you want to be able to go into your CMS and make those changes immediately instead of waiting days or weeks for developers to go in and change it. You also want title tags and URLs to not have a connection and relationship, because if you're producing content, you might want to include in the title tag a year or a number because it's a numbered list. But in the URL, you don't want to be including that because it helps that URL to become evergreen and it can be updated on a regular basis. You want the ability to remove categories from URLs, especially on the content side of things. If you have the ability for URLs to sit on the main blog domain or subfolder instead of sitting within a category structure, it means if you want to move content around, it prevents you from needing to implement redirects on a regular basis. Scheduling content can help with scaling content over time. So if you're able to upload a load of content and schedule for when it's going to go live, it helps with your scalability and your content planning going forward. You want to make sure it's easy to delete and redirect content. So there could be an example where you might have lenders on your website and they need to be removed. But you don't want to be waiting on your developers to go onto the CMS and delete those lenders. You want to be able to easily go into your CMS platform and delete them. That helps with compliance at the same time. hreflang integration needs to be in place. So if your website exists in multiple markets and you're producing content for multiple markets, you want to be able to have the ability to go into your CMS yourself to referencing the hreflang code, the UK, US, or the French or the German equivalent content. That means it's going to be a lot quicker for Google to understand which piece of content needs to serve which market, and it helps prevent duplication at the same time. You make sure JS can be crawled. It's quite a common issue I've come across where the rendered content cannot be crawled. So you can use tools such as View Rendered Source, Chrome extension to test it, to make sure that the content you've got on the front end that might be in JavaScript can easily be rendered, and it's in the rendered HTML. As the majority of our focus will be creating high quality content, we want to ensure it can be discovered and indexed ASAP. A common issue is when URLs are not added to an XML sitemap, uploaded to Search Console, or to the robots.txt file. Also, the pagination sequencing being built in JS and it's not crawlable. So I'd recommend making sure you have a pagination sequence that is crawlable and includes the next few pages in the sequence to make sure your new content can be discovered quickly, but also your content that's been written a few weeks ago to months ago can also be discovered and re-indexed on a regular basis. Schema such as FAQ schema can provide more real estate on the search, resulting in a higher click-through rate. So if you are adding FAQs within your content and you have the ability to kind of mark it up with FAQ schema, it gives you the ability for it to potentially get pulled through onto the search engines, and it pushes your competitors down. So in turn, it's more real estate and increases the click-through rate. Then we move to off-page. So you can influence your brand's authority, reputation, and trust. And this can be done in a few different ways. You can build tools on your website that become linkable assets and continually attract links from authoritative and relevant domains. So I've got a few examples here. So we can see that Money Saving Expert and Halifax have created mortgage calculators as a linkable asset, which continually generate backlinks from other websites. This is because these tools are useful for their customers, but also for users of other websites too. By building these tools, it helps build up the domain relevancy for these sites around the topic of mortgages, and it also helps reinforce trust. And you can also see with Money Helper, they've done a calculator around savings calculator. It's generated lots of backlinks, and from digging into the data, it's from quite high authoritative domains. So again, it helps build up the trust for Money Helper, helps also build up their relevancy for savings. When they start to write content around savings, or Money Saving Expert Halifax writing content around mortgages, it can help build that domain, like I was mentioning, domain relevancy for that topic. So it might help those informational queries rank quicker and perform better. By building tools such as calculators, it can also be useful in attracting new users early on in their search journey. So for example, if I was looking for a mortgage, before finding a provider, I may want to find out how much I can potentially afford and what the repayments would look like. But once you have that new user on your website, you can then funnel them down further into the journey instead of going onto another site for a mortgage. Also creating report studies and indexes. So primary data can be your secret weapon, as you can uncover original trends that other sites might not have. This data can be turned into a linkable asset, such as an index, and can be pushed out to relevant sites and publications to generate coverage. If you don't have the luxury of using primary data, third-party data can also be a powerful data source to use and be turned into an index or research study too. You ideally want to create something that is relevant to your industry, is around the topic you're trying to build authority on, and is also topical. And also another way to build up your domain's trust is by utilizing experts within your organization, providing expert commentary on trending topics in the press. This may take some time, as you'll need to build your brand's reputation as well as your expert's reputation in the space. But you can also lean on your data team to build statistics which support trending topics in the press, and you can provide that data to journalists on kind of tier 1, tier 2 publications, which they might incorporate within their news articles. And then you get brand mentions and sometimes links back to your pages on your website, which helps, again, with building up your reputation, authority, and trust. By identifying experts in your organization, you can provide comments and quotes. It helps build up their reputation of the domain, but also the expert's reputation online, which is really important for building trust and is emphasized in the updated quality rated guidelines. An added benefit of building up your internal experts' digital footprints is that it helps to add trust to your content when they are the content curator, but also when a quote from them, a quote that they've created, is added to content on your website as well, because their quote will be seen as an authoritative, an authoritative stamp within your content to help bolster the authority and expertise of the article you've written. So we've now touched on market research, creating expert-led content, technical SEO, and building your brand's reputation and authority. But to do all of this, the SEO team needs to work closely with a number of marketing channels and have operational alignment. So the SEO team will work closely with the paid media team, mainly because you want to be sharing data. So the paid media team might be bidding on certain terms that convert really well. The SEO team should be finding out what those terms are, because that might help prioritize what pages to build first or what keywords to be going after. But also, if new pages are built from an SEO point of view, those pages can be tested via PPC campaigns before they perform well organically, because sometimes it can take 2 to 3 months for a page to perform where it ends up on the SERPs. You'll be working with PR closely, mainly from a digital PR point of view. The PR team will help to build the authority of the domain, help to build up the reputation of your internal experts, and trying to get them to quote within the press. You're going to be working very closely with the content team. The content team are mainly going to be producing a lot of your content on the blog, but also your copywriters are going to be writing the copy for a lot of your new product or solution led pages that are going to be added to your website. Developers, you want to have a great relationship with developers, because if you do have a technical issue, you want to make sure that those fixes can be implemented as quickly as possible. You're going to be working with the compliance team. You want to prevent any bottlenecks occurring, because a lot of the time the compliance team will need to review all of the content that's potentially getting uploaded to the website. So if you can get an SLA put in place and work closely with them, that prevents, like I mentioned, bottlenecks and delays. CRO and UX, mainly because the CRO team can help with, CTA placement within your copy or on your pages. You could start generating a lot of content, a lot of traffic to your website, but then you want it to convert. So they can help strategically figure out where to place those CTAs and what messaging those CTAs should have. The data team will be utilized for digital PR campaigns, but also you can lean on the data team to bring in statistics and data points into your content to add originality. The CRM team will help amplify your content, but also if you've got a community, the CRM team can help go into that community and provide surveys to find out what information do they want to consume. And the social team can be utilized to amplify your content as well. As we will be putting a lot of resource and effort into implementing an SEO strategy, it's really important to focus on primary and secondary KPIs. So from a primary KPI point of view, you want to be focused on organic traffic. You want traffic to come to the website, but you want that traffic to be relevant. So you want to make sure conversions or leads are coming from that traffic and ultimately revenue. From a secondary KPI point of view, I'd be looking at rankings. backlinks, and engagement metrics. Rankings, I would more put as a secondary KPI, because you could be ranking #1 for a keyword, but in reality, if it doesn't result in any traffic, and that traffic doesn't result in any leads or revenue, it's a metric which isn't contributing to anything. Backlinks help with domain authority as well, and engagement metrics can help figure out how well people are engaging with your content and is it satisfying the intent. So what type of reporting should we be doing internally? So everything needs to be tied back to your primary KPIs. You want to ensure you have a clear visibility on the number of conversions within your reporting. Tag your content by theme and category. You want to figure out, especially on your blog, what theme is performing well, and is there certain themes or topics which are underperforming from a traffic or conversion point of view. Tag your URLs by page template, so blog comparison product templates. Extract published date and updated page date and bring that into your reporting as well. I probably want to find out, in the last 3 months, has any of that content started to perform? The content I produced 6 months ago, how's that performing? Is some of it underperforming? Is some of it not even generating any traffic or conversions at the moment? Break out your traffic by brand and non-brand. Track the distribution of traffic by URLs so you can make sure you don't have an over-reliance on a small number of URLs. And keep a log of on-page and technical optimizations. Because again, what I mentioned is, if you're making changes to a piece of content or a page, you want to be able to see if that has resulted in an uplift in traffic, or has it resulted in additional activations. In order to get the required SEO budget, the budget you need, it's essential that you build a forecast model showing different scenario outcomes based on the SEO projects you want to implement for the year. So for example, if your planned SEO work is going to generate an extra £1 million in revenue to the business, and you require £100,000 to action that work, it shows a very healthy return on investment. And on the slide, I've explained very simply how you could go about implementing a forecast. So in summary, you may have heard me say expert and trust, and these words I would say to take away with you and to remember them. Your brand should be seen as an expert and one that can be trusted. You want to utilize writers and experts and utilize data and sources to ensure your readers can trust you. Build relationships and trust with stakeholders to help with operational efficiencies, along with ensuring granular reporting is in place, with everything being tied back to revenue and not forgetting the basics of technical SEO. Thank you.
Cool. So next up, I just wanted to quickly dive into some of the Q&A that we got. The first question, which came in during the webinar, is from Daniel Kamen. Thank you very much, Daniel, who said, have you done any testing to see results if you use an expert writer versus someone else that has less influence? And he's wondering if you're able to correlate data and what the most impactful expert author elements are. Like, what's the best way to demonstrate that this person is an expert?
That makes sense. That's a good question. So I'm in the process of putting reporting together to try and do that analysis and correlation. I've not actually been able to, I haven't got that fully set up yet to see whether when we have content with experts and content without experts, how do they perform and how does it perform differently? But what the approach I'm taking at the moment is, in our content plan, we tag up all the content where we've included an expert and we tag it as expert. And then we've got all the content where we haven't included an expert quote. And then we bring in that into Data Studio or Looker at the moment to then hopefully identify those correlations to look at traffic performance over time. So all those articles are tagged as expert over the content which hasn't been tagged as expert to see if there's any difference. But I think the second part of your question was around how do you show experts on your website? Yeah,
so is there correlative data as to what the most impactful expert author elements are?
So I'd probably say how I've been implementing it in the team is ensuring we're identifying experts who've got a good digital footprint online. So if we're wanting to back up a data point and I want a personal finance expert, we'll then do an audit online to identify a personal finance expert, which first of all has the same brand affinity to the brand, which is GoHenry, and also kind of align with kind of the tone of voice that we have, but then also to make sure they've been mentioned in other publications and they've been quoted in other publications as well, so they have that digital footprint. Where I wouldn't be identifying experts where in reality there might be classified as a personal finance expert, but if they haven't been really quoted or mentioned in many publications, it's probably not going to benefit our content.
Cool.
And then I'll also kind of link out to their website or their profile to kind of show their credibility.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, I say, back in the day when I was working in this space, we would have people who would appear on TV and things like that, but it was sometimes very difficult to quantify what the raw organic benefit, like if you like, the raw SEO benefit was, because obviously as soon as you put somebody on TV and say they work for X business, you do generate more search traffic, just in the fact that then people then search for that person plus the name of the brand, etc. This is a question that I've got, purely because it's something that we're looking at potentially doing with the clients at the moment. I was wondering if you've got any experience in using things like hreflang to link together similar but different pages, if you like. So I'm trying to think of an example. So I guess linking, say, UK retirement content to like 401k in America, things like that. You know what I mean? Where you have a similar product that works differently or has a different name. Mm-hmm. Normally, I know when we think of hreflang, we think of like, this is the delivers to Australia red dress page, and this is the delivers to UK red dress page. But in this, it's content that is the same for different environments, but it's also totally different, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I personally haven't implemented it that way before, mainly because the SERP results are very different competitors, different articles ranking, and I wouldn't see the 401k article competing with your equivalent article in the UK and vice versa, where typically when I'd implement hreflang, where you're going after, in theory, the same keywords in both markets, but you don't want the wrong URL to rank in the US SERP compared to the UK SERP and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I guess that actually makes total sense, right? Is that, by default, the content is so totally different and so targeted towards a market, it will naturally, I guess, rank.
Yeah, I guess, to be honest, we do have that scenario at the moment. We just haven't implemented the hreflang there, where, again, we've got the same scenario at GoHenry, where we're producing content in the US, but it's only US specific, for example, but it's very similar to but there's a UK version, but it's but the articles are completely separate and being written a very different way, and different terminology is being used. We haven't implemented hreflang there because I don't see the competition or conflict between those two pages or URLs.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm a little bit biased. The example I'm thinking of as well, the old website is very, very old, and some of the new regional variants are a lot newer. So we've got like that authority battle as well to have. I'm just looking at a couple of other questions before we go. Someone's asking, Lincoln is asking, how do you create a topic cluster between product pages, marketing campaign pages, and blog pages, since they're all sat on different subfolders in the hierarchy? So how do you link up, say, content that's on your blog to products to other marketing categories, etc.? Yeah.
So we're currently going through this process at the moment, where typically what you want to do is get a crawl of all your URLs that exist across all your different subfolders. I'm assuming they sit on the same domain, but it doesn't matter if they don't, in theory. So at least you've got an idea of everything that exists. And then if you want to be building a topic cluster on, I don't know, financial literacy, for example, I'll identify all the content that we've produced on the blog that's around that topic. And then it's more to do with internal linking more than anything. So I identify the priority URL that I want it to be seen as the pillar page, the primary content. And then I'll identify all the children content that I want to be placed underneath it. And a lot of that time, so a lot of the children content from an informational point of view will be subtopics of financial literacy. So that could be saving, budgeting, ways to teach kids about money. And what's happening is, on the financial literacy article, we're going to be including paragraphs of content around ways to teach your kids about money, but only touch upon it and then link directly to the ways to teach kids about money article. We'll touch upon, as part of financial literacy, is made up of saving, investing, spending, and then we'll have a short paragraph on saving, and then we'll link off to our saving article. And then on the child articles, in the first paragraph, we'll link back to the cluster article, which is financial literacy. We'll try and ideally you want to try and include it in the most natural way possible in the beginning part of the paragraph, or if it's difficult to get there, we'll have like a related link at the bottom of that paragraph. So when a crawler comes to visit the website, it will hopefully visit the financial literacy article first, and then it'll see all its children article that sits underneath it. Then when it visits the child articles, it'll see it linking back up to the pillar page at the same time. But also you want your child articles or spokes to be interlinking to each other where applicable. When it comes to a product page, it depends, because some of your spokes or some of your clusters might not need to link to a product page. But let's just say we've got a debit card landing page, and then we've got informational content around debit card. What we'd be doing there is in the first paragraph of a lot of debit card content, we're going to be linking back to our debit card product page, so that at least the debit card product page is going to be seen as the priority page on the site, and then all our informational content will kind of prop it up in the site architecture.
Yeah, just to sort of interject, it's not a fintech company, but if you'd like to see a great example of the sort of thing that Ben's talking about, I'd recommend having a look at Cloudflare's knowledge base. That does a really, really good job of kind of splitting out different types of infosec topics, then breaking that down into like really niche, those articles and like really niche sections underneath it. And then obviously within that section, they then link out to their product pages. So you're in the attack section, you then get into DDoS attacks, then different elements of that, and then it explains how their product does a great job of helping mitigate against those issues, and then links out from there. They're not a client, it's just a great example of the sort of thing that Ben's talking about, these kind of really nice, sort of broad and deep product offerings. Quick question from Luca Hargrave here. What is your strategy for identifying and going for zero or low volume keyword targets?
Yeah, it's a good question. So that's where we will dip into our community to find out what type of quest, what kind of pain points they got, what type of queries or content do they want to consume. And then once they give us, when we get some ideas from them, we'll then start to seed some keywords. And a lot of the time, and then when we put the seed keywords into, let's say, some third-party tools, that's where it might say the zero volume. But then when we type those keywords on the SERPs, we'll see that other websites have written articles on that topic. That doesn't mean it's going to produce them traffic, but we can see other websites have been writing content on that topic as well. So we'll kind of go, well, if our customers or our community are saying they want to digest that content, we can see other websites have potentially produced content on that topic. We'll go, let's give it a try. So it's more trial and error with zero volume keywords, because you don't know until you've written the content to know if there is volume. But we'll kind of base it off what our community is saying. Again, forums is great, because, or using like Mumsnet, for example, in my scenario, because we can then be dipping in to find out what are mums talking around when it's about financial literacy or financial education for their kids, and what questions are they asking each other. And then some of that we can extract, put into tools to see if there's any volume. If not, we'll kind of still go, why don't we test that term to see if it works? And again, it's just trial and error. But it's using other data sources, which maybe don't have search volume, but you're looking at real users and audiences who potentially going to be using your product to see what terminology are they kind of using when they're communicating with other people. Also, social listening could be another great way to find terms or topics that people are talking around. And sometimes those topics might be so new, third-party tools don't have any volume on it, and you can't get that from Google Planner, for example. But if it's a topical theme that people are talking about from a social standpoint, sometimes you can get ahead of the game as well, and you can produce that content before anyone else. So it's just using other tools that aren't just typical SEO keyword research tools.
Yeah, I saw a great bit of advice actually that I still think must be obvious to other people, but it was a real light bulb moment when I saw it. Is if you have internal search and you have access to internal search metrics, use that data, because again, like Ben says, especially if a bit of news breaks overnight or in the middle of the day or something like that, and suddenly people are flooding to your site to see how a payment provider going under or an energy provider going under, et cetera, might affect them. If you can see that huge spike in traffic within 12 hours, something like that of it happening, technically that's still zero volume, but there's enormous demand for it there and then. And also, I think the point that Ben's making around that stuff, especially around like error messages and things where people will just copy and paste an error message into Google, that's always going to be a zero, or they're going to be very low volume keywords, but 200, sort of a cluster of 200 keywords, each with one crawl each, one search each is 200 keywords, right? A couple of questions around schema. So obviously we talked about FAQ schema. Is there anything else that you use? I mean, obviously we'd recommend setting up brand schema and organization. Again, which helps with disguise.
Organization, you can have blog posts schema markup put in place as well, or if you're more of a news-based website, news-based schema markup. You probably want to mark up the author that I guess the author or expert who's writing the content as well, and then on the author pages themselves, making sure the schema markup on those author pages explaining who they are, so it's giving as much information as possible to a search engine to understand their entity and who they are and their credibility, for example.
And it's worth remembering on that, I think, as well, that not all schema changes the look of a search of a SERP. Not everything adds FAQ, things like that. But in the background, there's ways of testing this. You can get access to basically like a confidence score in your site, and the more that you and in your content. And again, the more that you link to you cite your sources, you link to your authors, things like that, helps to build up those content scores. We're doing a bit of work actually for a YNYL client at the moment who have a competitor who have incredibly extensive schema. Like they mark up every possible element of the page you could possibly think of, more than I've ever seen, and a lot that don't do anything, quote unquote, in the SERPs. But then when you look at when you dig into the API and look at confidence scores for Google's confidence scores, we're working out to make sure it's nothing else, but on the surface of it at the moment, it seems like they are significantly higher because Google's got that faith in it, because they're saying, well, hey, here's where I got my, here's where I got these numbers from, here's where I got these results from. So I think finally, that's all the questions I can see that we've had. We'll just jump into the last slide here, which is our ready to dive deeper slide, which is just a few things that we've got coming up in the future. So as you probably know by now, the blog is at lumar.io/blog. On there at the moment, a couple of interesting articles around stay focused on user experience, keeping up with Google search systems, algorithms, and updates. And also you'll find a link in there to our ebook, the 2023 strategy guide. I'm still having trouble saying that for some reason. Trends to watch this year. And then finally, our next webinar is soon, actually, next week. Next week, with Ashley Berman-Hale, my boss. 26th of January 2023, 4 p.m. GMT, 11 a.m. EST, 8 a.m. PST, which is finding your people in SEO, why community building is key in SEO. So before we go, I just want to say thank you very, very much to Ben. That was great, and as I say, reminded me of my old days working for in a price comparison website. Really, really great. Thanks to everybody who's attended for asking questions.